Well, Colts fans, the 2024 Colts season has come to an end, and we are here on episode 18, or as Logan likes to call it, the Manning episode of Colts Unplugged Pod.
Thank you,
Colts,
Peyton.
thank you, Peyton. Colts, we miss you. Colts defeated the lowly Mac Jones led Jaguars in overtime, but we're going to talk about that a little bit. But I think more of our focus is going to be what happened 2 hours after the game with Jim Irsay releasing a letter, which seemed like he already knew what his plans were going into 2025. It doesn't look like this game had much of an influence on his decision of whether Chris Ballard or Shane Steichen would be back. I know Colts fans like ourselves, Logan and I, both co-hosts of this podcast, obviously wanted Chris Ballard gone, maybe wanted Shane Steichen gone. It was like 50-50. But Jim Irsay released a letter saying that they'll both be back in 2025 in his Twitter manifesto, just like Pat McAfee had a big one too last week too.
So many Twitter manifestos happening
Yeah,
recently.
right?
It's too many to catch up with.
Well, Logan, let's get into it. And by the way, before I say that, if I completely forgot to say this, if you're not following, hit that subscribe button, Colts fans. This is the last episode of the season. We're still going to have a shit ton of off-season content, so make sure to follow along on TikTok, YouTube, etc. Logan, what were your thoughts? Post-game, we're all kind of like, okay, season's over. It was a kind of a meaningless win. But what were your thoughts when Jim Irsay released that letter?
I just immediately started mass sending texts to all the group chats I'm in. Obviously, I sent one to you and to all the other group chats that I'm in that talk about Colts football. And I was just stunned. I didn't think there was any reality that Chris Ballard would be back as our general manager after we've talked about many times through the episode so far on Colts Unplugged. We've talked about Ballard's incompetency and his lack of ability to create a winner. He just he hasn't done it. He has not won in his entire tenure here.
Statistically, he has not won.
He has not won. He hasn't won anything. He's won nothing of value whatsoever. And I was stunned. I was absolutely stunned. I was like, for a ninth season now, this man gets the longest leash extended in human history when it comes to sucking at your job for 8 straight years. And he keeps getting away with it. It's like that. It's like the meme from Breaking Bad where Jesse's like, he can't keep getting away with it. And that's how I felt.
We're literally rewarding mediocrity at this point. Like, I feel like it's like we talked about this so many times. Logan, me and you would be canned like year 2 in our jobs if we failed to like hit quota or like whatnot. But this man,
in any job, really, I feel like think about it.
Yeah.
In any position ever, I'm really trying to think of one where if you are one of the worst at that position for 8 straight years, that you would keep your job. There's very few out there. I don't think there's many.
Yeah. What's crazy is Chris Ballard. We're not asking you to be number 1 out of 32. We're not expecting a Super Bowl right now. Just get number 1 out of 4 out of the AFC South one time in 8 years. You can't get first place out of 4 teams. Your probability is so much higher than 1 out of 32.
Yeah.
Like, just
not
one
to mention
time.
They're always shit. Most of the seasons, they're always shit teams record wise, right?
Yes.
Like the AFC South has been shitted on for years. Usually there's one team that's, above all the other 3 in the division every year. And the fact, like you said, that the Colts haven't been able to do that for now, 10 dating back to 8 years rather, and haven't hosted a home playoff game in 10 years. I talked about that the other day as well with some friends. Haven't hosted a home playoff game in 10 years.
What was the last one you went to? Was it Colts Chiefs with Andrew Luck? Was that the last one?
No. So the last one was actually Colts versus Bengals. We hosted the Bengals. Yeah. So that was the season after the Luck comeback against the Chiefs. So
did that pop up on your timeline?
Last time
week?
was Colts Bengals. Andy Dalton was still the starting quarterback. They still had AJ Green over there balling out. Yeah.
Crazy, man. Crazy. Good times. I really think that I guess I wanted to ask you, do you think that Jim Irsay's mind was 100% made up going into the game that he was bringing back Steichen and Ballard? Or do you think if they would have lost that game to the Jags in overtime, do you think that would have changed anything? You lose to a Mac Jones-led team who just got their head coach fired today. Like, do you think that changes anything?
I mean, obviously, I think I would never say no completely because I think there's obviously outliers. If the Jaguars would have put up a performance like the Giants did last week and just put 45 on our heads and just embarrassed the Colts,
Oh,
I
yeah.
think there's maybe a slight possibility just because Jim Irsay, I know he's a guy of ego. I know he cares about what the team looks like. I know he cares about what he cares about his appearance, right, to the
Yeah.
public. And so I think if they just got absolutely just embarrassed, maybe. But I'd say Irsay's mind was pretty damn made up going into the game. It would have taken something, I believe, drastic
Yeah.
to happen in that game to lead to a firing because for 2 hours later after a game, dude, 2 hours. All the players haven't even probably made it home yet. I mean, they're probably still
Yeah.
hanging out in the locker room, like getting some stuff. They
Say
haven't even gone
goodbye.
home yet after
Yeah.
2 hours. And Irsay is already releasing a letter saying, "Hey guys, I know the season wasn't what we wanted it to be, but we're gonna run it back."
Yeah.
That's what the letter said. I
Yeah.
know we suck again, but we're gonna run it back.
The worst part is, like, in layman's terms, it literally said, like, Colt, I know this is not what most Colts fans wanted. I know
And
it
then he's
didn't
like,
say that exactly,
"But we're gonna do it anyways."
yeah, we're gonna do it anyways. Well, they do, like, and did you see what he looked like walking into the Colts locker room or out of the Colts locker room? Bro, he's 65 years old. God bless you, Jim Irsay, but, like, I don't think you're in any shape to be making, like, decisions like this.
Dude has an 85 to 90-year-old body and he's 65. And
Yes.
it's just the nature of like life sometimes, man. Like he had a really rough path with like drugs and stuff like that early in his life and still struggled into his midlife. But the bottom line is, I think for the good of the franchise, I was going to ask you this actually. I think for the good of the franchise, he's got to step down and start focusing on his health, man. Like at some point, you have to be like, hey, like Jim, maybe we shift focuses a little bit here. We've got a good team around you.
Yeah.
We've got your daughters lined up that have been literally learning underneath you, under your wing, under your tutelage, how to run a franchise. And they've been doing it for quite a while, actually. They've been involved for quite some time. So I don't know, man. What do you think about that? Do you think it's at all a possibility, or what? Where are you thinking with that?
I'd love to say so. Once again, remind me, his daughter's name is Carly, right? Isn't it Carly Irsay?
Yeah.
Carly Irsay, right? So Carly Irsay, guys, for those that are listening, I'm sure you guys have seen her. She's always on the sidelines.
Kelly and Carly, I want to say.
Kelly and Carly.
There's two of them. Yeah,
but Carly's the one that's on the sidelines, I think, right? I think it's
so,
Carly.
Yeah.
So Carly is the one, guys, that's on every single sideline. You talk about home games, away games. She is always at every single game. She has a headset on, like she's part of the Colts staff. She's learning the in and outs of the game, understanding players, understanding, coverages, positional stuff, things of that nature, because she wants to be a good GM.
Yeah.
I do think, like you said, Jim Irsay needs to step down because of his health. We saw what he looked like coming out of that locker room. I don't think he's in any state to be making these big decisions. But also, Jim Irsay is kind of reminds me of like a Jerry Jones kind of guy, not in a sense of I'm going to be the GM, but like I have this franchise. I want to make these decisions until I pass away. And that scares me. But what also concerns me is, what if Carly is actually involved? I'm not part of the organization. I'm not in Indianapolis. I'm not reporting on these folks, so I don't know for sure. But if this was a decision that was Jim Irsay and Carly, it actually gives me a little bit more uncertainty knowing that, okay, Carly kind of thinks like Jim Irsay and wants to run it back with Ballard and Steichen. I just want to that's the concerning
I mean, it's
part.
not impossible, I mean, like it's definitely a little on the conspiracy-ish vibe, but I don't think it's completely out of the question because she has been closely involved with it. And by the way, guys, just for clarification purposes, it's Kaylin and Carly. Yeah, so we were right.
And
Carly is the one that we've been seeing more predominantly on the sideline with the headset on a lot of times, Colts fans.
Yeah.
And now Kaylin is involved pretty heavily as well. Like she's involved with a lot of the marketing stuff and the PR. Like she appears in a lot of like the what's it called, Kicking the Stigma videos and things like that. So she's very involved too. But yeah, I believe it's Carly who has been on the sideline mainly with the headset on. That's her.
And
I just saw her picture. So
I feel like Carly would mainly be that person to take over Jim Irsay's role as
I
owner
think
and
so. Yeah, I
decision
think she's the
maker.
older daughter. So I think she's
Yeah.
just yeah.
So
So
I want to talk about this Chris Ballard thing real quick. And we'll talk about Steichen after. For me, there's two sides to what was I going to say? To me, there's two sides to Chris Ballard coming back as GM in 2025. The first side is what 95% of fans think he should not have been here. He has no achievements whatsoever. He's achieved nothing for 8 years. We're celebrating a culture of mediocrity, and we're extending that in the 2025 season. Then there's the flip side, which is
right.
we paired. You typically don't do this. You typically don't pair old GMs with a new quarterback and a new head coach, which is what the Colts did 2 years ago with Steichen and AR. So now what the other side of the coin is saying, hey, let's let Ballard, Steichen, and AR all go out together in 2025 if this fucking blows up again next season. Those are the two sides that I see, where Jim Irsay is just like, if this blows up, I can clean slate in 2025. If not, then whatever. But obviously, as fans, like, fuck no, we don't want to see Ballard again. You're celebrating culture mediocrity, and maybe even let Steichen go and just reset completely this season. I think what a lot of Colts fans wanted to see.
I think I agree with you at the on that end as well, as far as you mentioning, blowing it up all the way next year. But here's the problem is at the end of the day, the Colts have pinned themselves, in my opinion, into a corner now, and the most of the damage is already done. Like the PR damage is already done. I mean, there's really not much more you can do now other than to make the move that's going to appease your fan base. And here's the thing. Everyone always talks about, oh, like you don't know what you're doing, like you're just some person like talking about the Colts. I agree. I'm not saying I know 100% the answers. I'm giving you my opinions on how I feel. Number one, like you always see my name. I go by Pro Fan Logan. The whole reason I go by that is because I'm a fan first. That's it. I consider myself as a joke, a professional fan. It's all a joke where this all came from. But it's also true in the fact that I'm just a fan, right? And I'm giving my opinion. And my opinion is that it has set such a bad cultural standard, and it's set such a negative PR that it's actually affecting the fan base now. I mean, you see just hordes of people online flocking to tweet after tweet and post after post, video after video, all just commenting fire Ballard, fire Ballard. Like, I agree with this. Like, I'm not renewing my season tickets. Like, screw this team. Like, they don't care. Like, they just continue to be mediocre. So at some point, it's like I understand the idea of trying to tear it all down at the same time, but how many fans is Jim Irsay and the rest of the Colts front office? How many fans are they willing to piss off in the process and make it harder for them to build back what they built in the early 2000s, right? All the way up to, around the, 2015, 2016. Like, how long and how much are they going to piss off fans that they really built up to have for 16 seasons?
Yeah,
That's sort
I
of how I look at
100%
it.
agree. That's such a good point. Another thing I wanted to add on there too, if and when Gus Bradley gets fired, retaining Steichen and Ballard into the 2025 season, how attractive does that make a defensive coordinator job here at Indy? Knowing that if 2025 shits the bed when you're running it back with Ballard, Steichen, AR, if it does happen, that DC knows that he's probably gone too when they clean slate. So that doesn't make this a very attractive market
It
in
doesn't,
regards
yeah.
to replacing Gus Bradley. So my concern is, what if they fucking bring him back, which I want no part of? Like, if you want to use Gus as a scapegoat, he's not even a scapegoat. He deserves to go. But that is my problem with this, is that you deciding not to clean slate today, this season, is going to lead to catastrophic damages for your team next season if it doesn't work out.
And here's to go with your point and agree with you. Look what the Patriots did. That's why the Patriots are one of the best organizations in sports, not just the NFL. They're one of the best organizations in sports because they had 1 year and they didn't like what they saw out of Gerard Mayo. And guess what? He's done. He's out. There is no, oh, let's ride this out. We gotta make sure that there's the right GM in the same time, and we gotta
Yeah,
make sure that all these pieces. No, they they played out the year and they didn't make the progress that they wanted to. I don't think they were expecting like playoffs level success, but there was something that they didn't like out of Gerard Mayo, and they made the decision. That's why I think it's so upsetting to Colts fans because it's like, how many times are we just going to do the same thing and see the same mediocre results over and over? They say the definition of insanity is
insanity.
doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results, right?
Yeah,
So that's where I'm at. It's more of a principle thing. I get it with the whole lame duck, head coach GM. Fine, go out there and find you a GM then that is willing to work with Steichen and AR under the pretense that, hey, if this doesn't work next year, I'm bringing in all my new guys in, and I have immunity that next year. I'm gonna get at least year two, right?
yeah,
I feel like you could definitely find a GM that would be interested in that role because, hey, you roll the dice and it works with Steichen and AR, then amazing. I get a young franchise quarterback. I get a brilliant offensive minded head coach, and bada bing, bada boom, let's go do this. And then if not, it's like, okay, well, let's just bring in my guys now. I'll
yep,
I'll, I'll go and I'll do all the hires and we'll build this thing up. So I would actually think it would be somewhat of an attractive position. I really
yeah,
do
hundred
because they
percent.
have a 1 year to see if they've got the guys, and then if not, okay, let's build my team.
Yeah,
That's how I would look at it.
no, I 100% agree. 100% agree with what you said there. What what do you think happens? What do you think happens with Steichen moving forward? Is something that I'm concerned with, or again, is my biggest thing. Like, what happens next season? Because if it doesn't work out, Steichen's gone. Steichen's out of here. We clean slate. We have a whole new house, and then it becomes like you mentioned, kind of a. I don't think it's a really attractive job. You have no quarterback here. You have no direction. You have a sense of mediocrity for the past 9 years that you've shown
Right.
to every single other GM out there. Like, hey, we're willing to have a culture of mediocrity. Like, what happens? What happens then? Like, I kind of agree. Like, I was always on the point of arranged marriages don't work out until you said that. And now I'm just kind of concerned if it all blows up, what the heck are we going to do? We're going to rebuild and start all over.
Yeah,
We're going to be ass again. Like, I don't know.
because yeah, if you think about it, like I just mentioned, it's not like if it doesn't work next year with Steichen and AR that again you couldn't just start the rebuild from there, right? Which is basically what they're doing now. I don't think it changes anything. That's what
Yeah.
is so wild because what's the standard? I'll ask you that, Addy. Like, if Ballard is saying, or sorry, if Irsay is saying, "Hey, I'm going to run it back with Ballard and Steichen. Like, these are my guys. I believe in what they can do." What is the minimum that he needs to see next season to
Yeah.
keep them
Yeah.
after this next season? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what doesn't make sense to me. Is I'm like, what is it, like Super Bowl or bust? Is that what you're saying? Like, hey, these are my guys next year. It's like, what are they going to have to do
Yeah.
to retain their position, and what's going to be considered fireable? That's what
Yeah.
I'm curious about.
I 100% agree with that. And maybe a not so bold take. I think the Colts have a high likelihood of not even winning as many games as they did this season, which was 8. And the reason I say this is because the Colts opponents came out already and much harder than last season, guys. If you haven't taken a look at it, I don't have it pulled up right now, but it's much more difficult. You're not playing, the Giants. You're not playing I mean, you're playing the Jags, obviously, but you're not
Well, they
playing
can't
like these.
even beat the Giants,
Can't
so it
be the
doesn't
Giants.
even
Yeah, I guess
matter.
it
So
doesn't
it's
fucking
like, I
matter.
mean,
It's crazy that every Colts win this season has been a 1-score win.
no, yeah, and I think they beat one team above 500 this year, if I'm not mistaken.
It was the
This
Steelers
season,
with Justin Fields.
yeah,
Does that
yeah,
count? I guess.
right, right. That's what I'm saying, and that was kind of a weird, wacky game, anyways, because you had one QB to start the game and another QB
Yeah.
to end the game, so it's like
Almost gave up the lead,
you
like
didn't really get a
always.
good assessment of what your franchise guy could do or not do. But
Exactly.
yeah, dude, I will say this, it's definitely uncertain times if you're a Colts fan right now, and I know I put out a tweet and I was very serious about it. Because I've been a Colts fan literally my entire life. I literally can pull up one of my first baby pictures for you guys. Like I said, it's literally me in a Marshall Falk jersey, man. So like
Yeah.
I have, since I could speak the word football and say touchdown, I have supported the Indianapolis Colts through and through. But I'm serious. I don't think this coming season, I do not think I am going to spend any money directly on the Colts. Like
Yeah.
until like moves are made. Like I'm not going to go to a Colts game in Lucas Oil. I'll go maybe to an opposing stadium, whatever. I'm not giving my money to a team that refuses to listen to reason and refuses to even somewhat give back to the fan base and say, thank you guys for showing up, for dedicating part of your time and your life and your money and your effort and energy. Thank you so much. Here's Chris Ballard again. No, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it. He's needed to be gone for 4 or 5 seasons now, bro. I'm not doing it. I'm
Yeah.
not doing it.
I
I just
100%
can't.
agree.
Yeah.
I 100% agree. Pat McAfee said on his show today, he goes, the Indianapolis community, the Indianapolis city deserves a great football team. And what we've
They
put up for the
do.
past 8 years is just fucking putrid outside of like
I
one
know.
season, outside of Rivers season. Like
Outside of the river season, that's it. That's all you got
that's
to show
literally it.
for it.
Well, actually, I actually wanted to talk about that real quick. You said like, what is the standard, Jim?
Mhm.
Like, what is the standard for next season? What do you need to see? Is it Super Bowl or bust? Like, what is the standard? Is it you got to make the playoffs, or they're all out of there, or let's say they go 10-7 and miss the playoffs? Like, what is the
That's what I'm
standard?
saying. I'm like, you have pigeonholed yourself so bad where it's like, what do they have to do next year? What do the Colts have to do next year, Jim, for you to either say, okay, that's enough, or, yep, just like I said, guys, trust the process, trust Ballard, trust Steichen. It's like, what? What
Dude,
has to occur? Like, do you just have to make the playoffs? Is
dude,
that your standard now?
our division
Not
is
dominating like it was for what,
years,
16,
decades.
17 years there,
Yeah,
from 1999 to freaking 2016?
2016. Yeah,
Yeah. So it's
imagine
just to make the playoffs now? Like, that's it? All right, cool. We're
Imagine
good.
our AFC South division is so ass. Imagine next season we go 8-9 and win the division just like the Bucks did like 2 years ago with Brady.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, everyone's job safe. You went 8-9 and you won the division though. I could totally see that shit happening.
Yeah. You know what? I think, what's funny, if I was Irsay, I would make a declaration. I would say, if we do not have the division wrapped up with at least 2 or 3 games to go, you're all fired.
You're
I'd
all
be like,
fired.
I'm not playing around with this winning in. I'm not
Yep.
playing around with this last game of the season. You gotta
Yep.
sneak in the playoffs. No, if we do not have the division wrapped up by like week 16,
Yeah.
I'm literally canning people, bro.
Yeah.
They're
100% agree.
gone, all of them.
I want to kind of pivot gears onto the defensive side of the equation because, DeForest Buckner, they had like the end of the season player, whatever, interviews today. DeForest Buckner was asked, what went wrong this season. And he said, this was the worst defense I've ever played on in my career, like in his career.
I didn't know he went that hard. I
Yep.
thought he just said, yeah, that's crazy.
And then he said, why would you say that? Like, what was the reason for that? And he said 3 letters, 1 word, ego. Everyone, and then he said everybody has individual egos, but you can kind of put it aside typically on good defenses. But he said ego got in the way. Now, I'm no philosopher. I'm not the smartest guy in the fucking room. But if you had to guess based on recent actions who he's referring to in regards to ego, I might have to point my point my finger at the other podcast.
Yeah,
the
other podcast
The other
that's
podcast.
got quite a few more subscribers than us, maybe
Yeah.
a couple.
I just
Yeah.
want to say, Zaire EJ, you know who's actually in the trenches? Michael Pittman, who fractured his back this season and played
Oh,
10
man.
fucking games through it. And he said, I did
Yeah.
it because 28, 56, and 99 needed me to. And I wanted to be there. Like that.
That's so cool that Pittman said that. And I
Yes.
think I think I saw on Twitter our boy Scony Colt. He said he like quoted it and he was like, "I don't give a shit what he wants. You give him a lifetime contract right now."
It's guaranteed.
He's like, "I don't care if he catches more than one ball a season. You sign that man to a
He played
lifetime
through a
contract."
fractured back, dude. Like, you know
Yeah,
how scary
yeah.
that is? Like, just in general, like if that. And he's like, at some point, I stopped taking MRI scans because, like, I didn't even want to see what the
I was
fuck it
gonna
said.
play.
I was gonna
Yeah.
play anyways.
Yeah, what a dog. That's the type of mentality and the type of players that you need on your team. And I think that's why people are fairly questioning like you said, they're questioning the validity of this team because of ego. There's a lot of guys that have a lot of ego and who are putting themselves before the team.
Oh yeah.
And it's just something you can't have. And with any successful team, like I dare you to go find a Super Bowl champion in the last, honestly, ever. I don't think that like you are not going to find a Super Bowl champion team that you've just got guys all over the field that have a bigger ego
Yep.
than their desire for the team to win.
Yep.
You're just not going to find it. You might have guys that are a little bit more talkative or they're a little bit more flashy. Like you have that on every team, right? Because different personalities. But as far as a large group of guys that have a bigger ego and their ego is more important to them than the actual success of the team.
Yep.
No, you will not find it on any Super Bowl champion roster. So I
They'll
agree
not
with
be
D-Buck
successful.
100%. This team will go nowhere until the culture has changed.
Yes. And listen, I'm all about life after football. I'm all about preparation. I'm all about go get your bag. But you are a starter, a captain in the NFL on a football team. That should come second. That should be a hobby. That should come after hours, after you watch film, after doing all that shit. Then you can focus on your podcast and promoting and whatnot. Right now, you're an NFL player. That's your number one thing. And then you think you're all hot shit because I'm going on a Zaire rant. I should probably stop. You think you're hot shit because you have the leaguing in tackles. You're your first time Pro Bowler. Congratulations, my guy. How many missed tackles?
Yeah.
Because the Colts
No.
led the league in missed tackles this season.
I was going to say that. Yeah. So like that,
What was your
that's what's
linebacker
crazy.
coverage? Sorry, to cut you off. But
That's what's absolutely crazy is, again, you have to be careful about letting your ego get in the way too much because you can get so laser focused on something like, a tackle or wanting to make a Pro Bowl, which I understand. Like I would want to be the best at what I do as well, right? Like that's a natural desire for a lot of people that are competitive. So I get where Zaire is coming from, but yeah, you got to put it in perspective, man. There's a time and place, in my opinion, to talk that talk and to talk smack and to say I'm a savage when you're down by 14 points to the Giants, and like go over to an empty sweet box and shake, invisible Pat McAfee's hands. It's like,
yeah,
there's a thing called, as a captain, called taking the high road. And I don't think he has that
no.
in his
He needs to one
ability.
up
I don't think
every
he
single
would
time.
ever in his life take the high road is what it looks like. So
It's crazy. Like you just lose to the Broncos, and the next day your following tweet is retweets count, or NFL tweeted retweets count as double for Pro Bowl vote, and you retweeted yourself for a Pro Bowl vote. Like you just lost to the Broncos. Your playoff chances are probably like down the drain, as seemingly so. And you come up and put that shitter of a performance to the Giants after retweeting that. That's your captain. I don't think there's been more of like a downfall of a player. Like awesome guy,
Yeah.
7th round pick on special teams, captain,
dude,
and now all of Colts fans want him out of here, which is
so
insane.
wild. Like he was like a fan. He was becoming like the fan favorite. Like even like Leonard was
Yeah.
like Darius Leonard. Like he was a fan favorite back in the day. People loved him.
I was
And
going to get the 44 jersey.
that's
too.
where I think a lot of fans were going with Franklin, to your point, is being like a fan favorite. And yeah, you're right. I've never seen such a shift in feelings towards one particular player change so quickly in basically 3/4 of a season. I mean, it was crazy. Like, I think even at the beginning of the season, people were like, hell yeah, Zaire Franklin, like, let's go. And then it was like this weird mark where, we started getting some losses on there.
It's a podcast, man. The podcast clips
took
resurfaced,
off.
like,
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, you're right. So
Hey, that's what it was.
It's super unfortunate to see. I will say that. I hate
So
it.
what do you do with this defense? Like, is it just a complete revamp? Like, I guess if I were to answer that, I would say you keep DeForest Buckner, you keep Kenny Moore, you keep Nick Cross, you keep
Jalen
Grover
Jones.
Stewart, Jalen Jones.
Shout out Jalen Jones. We love you,
Shout out
Jalen.
Jalen Jones. We love you. Please come on the show. We love you, Jalen Jones. Please come here. Did I mention we love you, Jalen Jones? And then what else do you do? Because I'm fine with moving on from Zaire and EJ Speed. To be very
I don't
fair,
think they will. I don't think they will though from Zaire just because of they would have to get some really good trade capital off of him. I would say that because
just paid him too.
he just paid. Yeah, he just got paid before the season. So I agree with you though. I think
Buckner's comments were towards that. Like you think they'd listen to Buckner, who's been here for X amount of years and has been to one playoff. Like he's probably just
he's on the side of the building, man.
Yeah, so he's probably like,
he's on the side of the building, brother. He's on one of the posters. Like, come on.
Yeah. What's the ideal hire for you? DC, like, do you want like a Robert Saleh? Like, is that
I want
ideal?
Saleh. Yep.
Saleh.
Yep.
Okay.
You nailed it. Yep.
That's
exactly who I want.
Either Saleh or
because
the guy that just got fired on the Bengals. I forgot his name. I wouldn't mind him. I promise you, if you look into him, it's not him. It was the fact that they couldn't pay anyone on the defensive side of the ball outside of Hendrickson, where they were just ass.
They just had no secondary. You're right.
I promise. He's a good DC.
I need to look more into him because, I feel like it would be quick to judge and just be like, oh, no, he's ass because the Bengals were bad. But, yeah, I want to check out him as well. But I was going to say I would love Saleh because he's a guy that's going to bring a different level of enthusiasm and joy and just that moxie to the position. I think he's a guy that players actually buy into.
Yeah,
I really do. I think he's a guy that is sort of one of the boys, one of the dogs on the team.
And it's like,
I think the Colts need that. They need somebody that they can genuinely rally behind and change the culture of the defense. Yeah,
that's 100% what I was going to say. And I don't think it's going to just change the culture of the defense. I think you need like some type of alpha in there. And I've been starting to question whether Shane Steichen is an alpha in regards to like a head coach. Like he can say all the shit he wants to say. Like at the end of the day, it's like.
He's a good coordinator.
You're one of the greatest offensive minds in the league still, in my opinion, but head coach, motivator. But imagine if Bald Man Saleh walked in and was like, fuck you, get in your positions, do this.
Yeah.
I captain. Like,
Colts need just period. Colts need a Dan Campbell, dude. I'm telling you.
Oh my God.
They need a complete culture shift. So like if we're here, we need what's the opposite of this? Just complete 360.
Yeah.
Or sorry, 180, because we don't want it to come all the way back around. We want it to stay at the new position, 180.
Yeah.
This is a math pod, guys. Remember.
We do math. What was that one thing we said like a couple pods ago? It was like
score more points equals win.
Equals more wins. That was great. Here's what Shane Steichen had to say. I just wanted to pull this up real quick. In one of his end of the season pressers, I'm sure he'll have a little bit more. One, he's undecided on. They're still evaluating on who's going to get fired. I think special teams coach needs to go. Mason. I think Gus Bradley needs to go. Shane Steichen was asked by James. I think it was by James Boyd. He said on what was your message to the team? Like essentially when you left, he said, "I just told those guys like." Giannis said this. He said, there's no failure in sports. There's frustration, disappointment. If you don't win the Super Bowl, does 31 teams have a failed season? No. You learn and you grow. Mind you, Giannis said this after he made the fucking playoffs. Like, this was a playoff quote. Playoff quote. And you're stealing a playoff quote?
Wait a second. Hold on a minute. You're telling me that Shane Steichen in the post... Hold on a second. Set the scene for me. So he hold on. So he walks into the locker room and he pulls out a Giannis Antetokounmpo quote.
Yep.
You're being dead ass with me right now. This isn't a fake tweet.
Do you understand your audience? Like your environment, where you're at right now? Like you don't talk about Giannis.
I cannot believe that that's real. Like I need to that is insane.
That is what he said. Word for word.
I'm sorry, dude, but that's damn near fireable for me. That is terrible.
That'll do it for you. Bro said
I'm
a Giannis
done, bro.
quote
He brought out a Giannis Antetokounmpo quote
in
in the
Indianapolis.
locker room
Yes.
in Indianapolis.
Yes.
Are you shitting me, dude?
Yes. It's crazy.
Oh man. I don't think, I'll be honest, Addy. I know he's going to be our coach next year, but I don't think I've ever seen somebody just be such a bad reader of the room as Shane Steichen. He can't read a freaking room to save his
Dude,
life, my dude.
I'm
He
so
needs to be
tired.
a coordinator, not a head coach, dude. That's
As much as I love you, Steichen, like I still want you to do well next season. Like, I can't deal with another year of this media shit. Like, can you do like I know you said there's gonna be a full-blown reset this season. We're gonna have a great offseason. Does that include media training? Like, does that
bro.
include something of that nature?
You
Because
better at least be at media training 8 hours a day,
please,
7 days a week, Steichen in the office. I
please.
swear, dude. Oh my god.
It's like not
Pulled
even
out a
it's like
Giannis Antetokounmpo quote in the locker room of
yes.
the Indianapolis Colts after we went 8-9.
Yes.
And Giannis is what, won one championship? Like it's not like he's Michael Jordan. You're not dropping a Michael Jordan quote. You're not dropping a
Indianapolis
LeBron James quote. He pulls out a Giannis Antetokounmpo quote.
after
What
going
in
8-9
God's
and
name?
missing the playoffs, while Giannis made the playoffs when he said that quote. Like, dude,
That could sum up honestly everything. Like if I had to
yeah.
explain to a non-Colts fan, like, you want to hear why our franchise is in disarray? Because our head coach, he pulls out a tweet from Giannis Antetokounmpo, a quote, and addresses a team of 53 grown men in the Indianapolis Colts locker room. That's
Dude,
how he does it.
this is like
Like,
this is like I'm thinking about it a little bit more. This is like really bad. Like, we don't have like a we don't know if we have the GM of the future. We don't know if we have the coach of the future. We don't know if we have the quarterback of the future. We don't have the DC of
it's
the future. We have full of egotistical dicks on the defensive side of the ball, outside of a
yeah.
few. It's like, what are we doing? Like, this is worse
We're
than I
dysfunctional bad. We're
yes.
dysfunctional bad, dude.
Are we
And it's
Jets
even
bad?
worse.
Are we Browns
It's
bad?
even worse though. That's the thing. I would say our dysfunction in ways is worse than the Jets because here's why. Again, they are bad enough to be considered a terrible team, right? A bottom feeder team and a team that's going to draft very high.
Yeah.
We are not very high. They're going to draft, top 5, top 10, whatever. That's what I meant by high. But yeah, we're not. Like, the Colts are always going to be that mid-level team. And if you remember, the Pacers went through this. If we're going to talk in Giannis Antetokounmpo terms, since, it easily crosses over. The Pacers were doing the same thing, a lot of Indy fans will know, for quite some time before they completely tore it down. And then they told the fans, hey, it's going to be some rebuilding years, but we're going to tear this whole thing down. We're going to trade our best player in Sabonis and get Tyrese Halliburton and get all this young talent in here and build it from the ground up. And that's exactly what they did. Now they were in the Eastern Conference Finals this past season. So, again, why I say that is because I think it's worse. I think it's worse dysfunction than like a Jets or a Browns because at least they know they're bad and it can help them like see the truth.
We're just bad, dude. We're just like a
It's
worse Mike.
bad.
We're like a worse Mike Tomlin led team. It's like at least they go like 9-8 or 10-7
Yeah.
and make the playoffs. It's like we just go 8-9 and 9-8 and miss and still draft in the same fucking spot and still have general manager questions and offense questions and defensive questions and quarterback questions. But at least they make the playoffs, dude.
So yeah, they're 8-9, right? And I wanted to run this by you too, like just what you think about why the Colts team is like this, where they're beating up on these bad teams, but just can't win a game. But hear me out. I mean, look at where they finished in every category. Like you look at the offensive side of the ball. They were sub 20, so they were probably like in that 20 to 25 range.
I do think offense is skewed though a little bit, just because of the weird quarterback play all season. But yes,
but still, I'm just saying overall as a team when you're evaluating them, right? You got like mid 20s, right? Mid 20s on offense. You're mid 20s on defense.
It's not a playoff team,
your kicker is struggles for to hit 50-yarders.
Yes,
Even special
consistently.
teams had its problems, right?
Yes,
Special teams lost the game for the Colts
part of
against the
it for the
Broncos
Giants and the Giants.
and the Broncos and the
Yeah.
Giants. Yeah. So all I'm saying is, man, I get that the record says 8-9, but they're bottom tier in every category that matters. Every category of statistics.
And we
It's
beat
crazy.
bad teams by like 3 points. It's like you beat the Jets by 1. You beat the Pats by 1. You lost to the Giants. You
true.
beat the Mac Jones led Jags by 3 in overtime with like not anything on the line, but like pride.
Yeah.
And like, can I read
Well,
this to you real quick? Like,
yeah, go ahead.
it was a tweet I screenshotted talking Colts on Twitter. Gus Bradley's defense this season, since we're doing stats, led the NFL in missed tackles, 362 yards per game, which is ranked 29th in the NFL. Drew Lock had 5 touchdowns, 309 yards. Mixon had 261 yards in 2 games. Jacobs had 151 yards rushing. Caleb has 363 yards. He averaged like, Caleb was like 150, 80, whatever. I don't know what the fuck he was.
Yeah.
Justin Fields had 367 yards. Trevor Lawrence had 371 passing yards. And he said Gus was helping the other team. Fire Gus. Like that's
No, it was
players.
It was bad.
It was bad.
But you know, we have a linebacker that had a lot of tackles, so that's cool, right? I mean, like we're 8-9, but hey, led the NFL in tackles.
Yeah.
Like, woo!
And he has a pretty cool podcast. If you haven't heard it, guys, it's on Spotify and Apple and YouTube. It's called The Trenches. And he loves to get into beef with potential Hall of Fame Colts players. He loves that shit. Like he can compete with them. The big fish. God, I love this team so much.
It's wild, dude. It is wild. That just
sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that just packs on my point though. Like you just brought out a ton of statistics that are so bizarre, and and add on even some of those games like the Titans game that they won technically, but oh my Lord, they almost allowed a historical comeback, and it just doesn't make any sense to consider this team a team that's close. Consider this team a team that is right there on the edge of the precipice. Because I'll be honest, this past season, I hyped myself up after some of those games. And I know we both did, like the Jets and the Patriots games, right? But when you step back and look at it from a bird's eye view, it's like, again, like you said, they beat the lowly Jets by 1 point. They beat the lowly Patriots by 1 point. Like it's just like, oh man.
But part of what I will say is what I liked at the end of the season. There wasn't a lot that I liked. What I liked is the offensive side of the ball. I felt like started to click a little bit compared towards they got JT going. Anthony Richardson was playing relatively okay. Joe Flacco was playing okay. Like the wide receivers are balling out. So like I have some like sense of optimism knowing that if we change players on the defensive side and change the defensive coordinator, like that could make a difference where instead of beating the Jets by 2 or 3 or the Pats by 1, we beat them by 6 or 7. And then from a bird's eye view, you're like, okay, this feels a little bit better. We don't need a game-winning drive because our defense didn't let up X amount of points to, Drake May and Drew Lock and whatnot. Like that's where the optimism comes from. But still, there's not a lot to be optimistic from the Colts side when you're running it back with every single person and the GM and the head coach
and
the quarterback.
And like I said, it's still, and I agree with you there. I can definitely see that they have pieces, but it's almost like they're missing too many pieces of the puzzle right now to possibly allow what could happen actually happen. Yeah. And what I mean by that is like with AR going to the offseason, we talked about last episode. If it was just like 1 or 2 things that we had to worry about with him, I would be okay with that. But you add on the now ever looming the injury bug question. It's like, can he actually be on the field though? Like that's a greater concern now at this point, more than his accuracy struggles and things of that nature. So and leadership questioning and stuff like that. So that's where I stand of like, I definitely can probably convince myself into some optimism if they have a good offseason, but I need to approach this offseason as a fan
Yeah.
with some, reservation just to be like, I got to see what this team does in the offseason. I got to see the direction that they actually start taking. I got to see what guys they cut. I got to see what guys they possibly trade, who they draft, all that type of stuff.
And
So I'm like really optimistic in my opinion.
And my thing is like Chris Ballard, you got to change your philosophy now. You've gotten one last chance. I hope year 9. I hope it's your last fucking chance ever. Whatever happens, happens. But you got to change, dude. Like whatever you did for the past 8 years hasn't worked. You got to go in full like survival mode. And what I mean by that is you do the complete opposite of what you've been doing and just relying on guys to develop. I don't care who it is. Go out there, grab whoever the fuck you want, big names. At least that'll make me excited in the offseason if you go grabbing big names, even though if they end up like the Titans and they're just shitters, just go grab, like, just try something
Just do it anyway.
different. Just do it. It's like, it's your last season. Fucking ball out. Do whatever the fuck you want to do. If it bites you in the ass, like you said, you get fired, which you clearly didn't. So, like, just do the opposite of what you've been doing for 8 seasons. I feel like that could maybe result to something, right? It's like instead of just waiting for your draft picks to develop and, holding, once again, crime by Gus Bradley, you don't take the best edge rusher in the draft and play him 50% of snaps. Like, he's a top 15 player drafted this season. Like,
why?
play him, bro. Like, I don't care if he has like a neck injury. He's in the league, bro. Like, he's your best pass rusher.
Yeah.
Play him.
Yeah, best outside pass rusher for sure. And it's like, he
100%.
just was never on the field.
No, he saw 50% of the time. They're like, Jared Verse, Dallas Turner, and they all looked better. It's like, dude, like he played 50% of the snaps. Like, give him like 100%. Give him 95%.
Of course they look better. They had twice the film.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my god, bro. This Colts team is gonna make me lose it. I thought I crashed out yesterday after seeing that, but it's all like coming back.
Dude, I'll end with us on this.
Yeah.
The Giannis quote got me. Like I don't even know, man. Like I gotta go reevaluate some shit.
You should read it.
That.
You should read it.
I'm gonna go read it. I hope there are others out there as baffled as me, because man, I was baffled when I heard that.
I was at work today taking a shit.
I was like, this man Ati is not about to pull out.
I'm
Giannis
telling you, bro. I'm telling you. It wasn't Ati. It wasn't me. It wasn't my quote. I took it from, I think, Joel Harrison. And he asked.
But I'm saying, when you heard it, I was like, when I heard it from you, I was like, I don't believe what I'm saying hearing right now.
It was like actually mind blowing. Like I read those tweets while I was taking a shit at work today, and I was like trying to like just read them all and catch up because I can't watch it at work. And then I see all this shit. I'm just like, also, by the way, before we leave, one thing too, Ballard presser around 9 a.m. Eastern time this Wednesday.
Let's put out something that day, like some content.
Yes.
Obviously we won't have an episode yet, but yeah, we should definitely.
We'll make some content and send it out to you guys. Yeah, on social. So make sure to like and subscribe. But I think that'll do it, guys, for episode 18. Colts season officially over. Colts Unplugged pod not over. We are still continuing into the off season. So make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. We post content essentially every single day, whether it be on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, you name it. We're here for you for all your offseason news. We'll talk about some of the other end of the season stuff. We'll give you like an offensive side of the ball recap, defensive side of the ball. Who do we want to retain? Who do you want to let go? We'll talk a little bit about the draft in regards to who we want in the next coming episodes. But just stay tuned, turn your notifications on, and yeah, Colts fans, we love you. Thanks for riding with us for
hashtag Fire Ballard.
Hashtag Fire Ballard.